Hello and welcome. We are live. I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Today I have the lovely Wiccan conservative Georgia Liberty joining me. And golly gee, I just didn't expect us to be talking about this. I mean, there we were last night, hanging out at Blackbird's Brew, having our weekly group chat, like we do. And we were having this great time talking about the Fae and folklore and all sorts of theories. Little did we know that there was a great disturbance in the force and that all kinds of ruckus has resulted in consequence of that. I am, of course, referring to the now infamous appearance of Trump at a CNN town hall. And Georgia, what do you think they were thinking?
You say there was a great disturbance in the force, and I say that we were all in wonderful spirits. And, we thought very kindly that the universe had just smiled upon our discussion. But little did we know, we were actually feeling the reverberation of the return of Donald Trump. What did you
Yes.
think when you woke up this morning and saw the headlines again in the news? Now we've had our downs with the Trump news lately.
We
So
have.
when you woke up this morning, did you feel like you were in 2016 and 2017 again?
I mean, I was thinking about bursting out into the Oklahoma song of "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning," because I was aware that he was doing some sort of town hall thing with CNN last night, but I wasn't really thinking about it. So this morning I was spreading video links, and I was there on my Twitter, and I see this hashtag of "Done with CNN." I'm like, well, okay, what's going on? So I click, and there were smelling salts everywhere. They had out the bandages. There was sackcloth and ashes. People have gone into mourning about, oh, now CNN has become fascists. They are now right wing. And how could you have Donald Trump? Don't you know? They just found him guilty of sexual assault. How could you have such a horrible person? I'm not watching you anymore. I'm going to MSNBC. Oh, it was so good. I almost didn't need a second cup of tea after I read that. It just felt that great.
Oh, it is a beautiful morning. It's a beautiful day, and we are seeing, in my opinion, another very drastic shift in the narrative that is cracking apart, letting different pieces of rays of light kind of shine through to the people and wake up, wake up. It's time to understand what has actually been going on here. And you know, it's interesting that he was on CNN, because I think as Republicans and, particularly conservative leaning people wouldn't have dared to even speak the idea of letting him go onto CNN, knowing that they were going to attempt to throw him under the bus and humiliate him with everything that has been going on. But it was an epic failure on their behalf. And I mean, epic failure on their behalf. The woman that they had interviewing him could not have been a more perfect embodiment of what I would consider your stereotypical average liberal white female. Am I wrong?
What? Oh, no, not at all. I mean, and just her smugness and the attitude, her posture, the energy she was projecting. I kept, and like I told you before we got on here, she thought she was doing well. We should really do a wellness check on her because I'm sure she's very surprised that Twitter's being mean to her today. I mean, what is that
Speed
dingbat's
up.
name? I can't remember what her name is. I mean, it's just not very important. She's kind of a non-entity, but it is wild. And you could tell how she kept trying to go after Trump to get him the kind of sound bites that probably she and her bosses wanted her to get. And I'm proud to say he wasn't particularly cooperating, which tells me that he's going in with a little bit more a little bit more awareness that there's no dealing with these people, and they're just going to do the worst possible thing. And he's approaching them in that spirit. Is that the same vibe you're getting, or no?
You would think that by now, with as many interviews and press conferences and having him on the podium and dealing with him through different catastrophes and disasters and so on and so forth, they would be prepared for the level of response that he is capable of giving every time he opens his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe that they have been so rocked to sleep by dealing with Biden's robotic responses. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you can articulate the words that are coming out of that man's mouth, chances are it was read from a teleprompter, right?
He is not doing well, even when he has the script right in front of him, in big letters right in front of his face that he's reading as you're watching him read it. He's struggling. I mean, he is not up to this. And then you see Trump, who's just going off the fly. He's pretty much as he has always been. And
Hmm,
I did not realize this, but apparently CNN actually stopped their town hall 20 minutes short.
really? Oh,
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah, Jeff. Well, he did a segment. He posted it to YouTube right before we started getting set up for the show, and he's like, "Yeah,
Oh,
they cut him
my.
off 20 minutes early." He's like, "I guess they really thought he was, that CNN was doing bad, and this is not a win for them." I mean, because from what I understand, I mean that Twitter started blowing up almost immediately over
Instantly.
this.
Right.
I mean, they cannot stand hearing anyone say anything. I mean, and it serves CNN and all of these big industry leaders. Well, they're not leaders anymore, but these big used to be megalithics in the industry. It serves them right, because they kept telling people for years on end that he's the devil, he's the Satan, he's everything that's wrong, he's every nasty slur we could possibly throw at him and more. Everything he says is a lie. And now I think they actually thought that they had control of the mob. And judging by what's going on in Twitter, uh, you have
Hmm.
lost control. The mob is taking on a life of its own. And I thought, that's right. You tear down CNN. I wanted them taken down a peg anyway. This is very helpful for my side, doing the happy dance over here. I want them destroyed. I'm not
We're
having to put
done.
forth any extra effort, and neither is anyone else on our side. And we still
Uh-huh.
get to watch the collapse. And I find this very pleasing.
Yeah, and again, with everything that has been going on, it leads me to believe that, it's not just that they live in their fantasy world where they have built Trump to be the demon and the epitome of all of the problems in the entire world, but they're so surrounded by it that it's almost, like you said, inconceivable that
Mhm.
anybody disagrees with them, lest alone a majority of the people that disagree vehemently with you. And you can silence them and you can pull them off of YouTube and you can tell them to be quiet, but they are still here and they are still advocating and they are growing in number because the
Mhm.
rhetoric is getting so large and so removed from reality that even the rational fence sitters that you want
Mhm.
to persuade to your side cannot be associated with the psychedelic trip you find yourselves in. And realistically, with how giddy they get, we've made reference now a couple times to the conviction from the Carroll case, and it's hilarious to me that they ran with this narrative, and to the point that Tucker Carlson has to come out and tell people, look, even though the news will give you a literally true headline, such as Trump convicted in the Carroll case, and everybody knows that Carroll accused Trump of rape, they have to bury the lead so far down in the text that actually, first off, it wasn't a criminal conviction because it
Mhm.
was a civil case, and there wasn't actually a conviction for any rape. It was libel and slander. $5 million libel and slander. can I get a witness? I need an attorney like that. Anybody know an attorney like that? Because I need
Oh,
one.
I
I'm just
know.
saying.
I know, right? Wouldn't that be handy? And and also what they bury is that Trump's side wasn't allowed to provide any exculpatory evidence.
Evidence.
No
Hmm.
one took into consideration the kind of outfit that this is, to where someone of Trump's standing, even in the 90s, they would have been greeted at the door. He would have still had security in the 90s. He would not have been alone.
Alone.
And those dressing rooms, you have to have the sale associates open it up for you. You have to do that even in ordinary stores anymore. But
doesn't
definitely with
doesn't
something
he do
higher end in New York,
hotels?
they don't just. Yeah, I mean, if he was wanting to bang some random chick, he has a lot of different places in New York he could have just invited her there to go. And if she says yes, then that wouldn't be rape in any case. But I mean, it just all the whole situation, people aren't thinking that through, and they're being encouraged not to think it through, because the moment people start to thinking, they're like, huh, the left are kind of lunatics. I don't think that would be good for me. I don't really want to go on medication for the rest of my life, so I'll go to these other people. Maybe they're not as bad as the left said that they were. So I mean, talk about a blue ribbon day for us. I tell you what, I'm feeling good.
They expected him to shrink away from that entire conversation. I don't know if they thought that he was going to was the soundbite they were attempting to receive. I did it. I really did it. You can't do anything about it because we're outside the statute of limitations for a criminal court. If that's the soundbite you thought you were going to get, I am so glad that you were disappointed, because I really don't understand how you know the facts of the case and then bring it up, like you said, so smug and so well, weren't you just convicted of criminal rape? No, actually
No,
that never happened.
no, he was convicted of being Donald Trump. I mean, that was like, we don't like you, therefore we're saying you're guilty of something. Couldn't tell you what, but you're guilty of something. It does amaze me because they have absolutely no understanding of his character. The only thing that they associate with him is everything that they have projected onto him. And you would think that if anyone had watched the testimony from that case when he's doing the deposition with that attorney, and he said, no, she's not my type. And as a matter of fact, neither are you. Under no circumstances would I have any interest in you. I mean, he's saying this under oath in court. I mean, unabashedly. I mean, that's the person you're going to intimidate or throw off balance?
uh, you
That's
gotta wake up
that's not
pretty early. You gotta wake up pretty early for this shit. And
I mean, that's
and
not the chink in his armor. I mean, they can't even pick the proper target anymore.
oh, that was hilarious, and it set him up perfectly to give the response. I know in politics they tell you, don't answer the question that's asked, answer the question that you want to answer. And
Mhm.
again, she set him up perfect to put him right into where he plays the best. And I know all the commentators said it, so I will not disappoint. I will say it as well. They played right into his strengths and let him get into the groove where he could give that witty retort, where he can relate back to the people and again say, they aren't really after me, they're after
Sure
you.
you. I mean, and I think that message is getting through loud and clear. What did you think about from time to time the audience was laughing at the moderator? Well, because that might be my favorite part.
Yes. It again shows in striking reality the difference of energy in the elite and the average Joe. I will give the left some credit here. They've been telling us for years that there's a split, that there's a 1% of companies, corporations, Americans, billionaires, trillionaires, Bernie Sanders, everybody else that
Mhm.
is controlling our society. And for once, they are not only showing it, but they are taking the mask off of who those people are.
Mhm.
And surprise, a lot of us already knew this, it's them. The
Yeah.
ones who have been warning you about these people who have been telling you we're here to help, surprise, it's them. They're the 1%. They're hurting you while simultaneously giving you what they feel you deserve.
It's so condescending, but
Mm.
it's nice because the more they take the mask off and the more the illusions that they've built up around themselves shatter, that means that anyone who is blindly supporting them, they're shattering too. And
Mhm.
some of them have already been reduced to an absolutely ineffectual goo. They have nothing. It's not resonating with anymore. They're not getting the same views. They're not getting the shock value. I mean, and speaking of not getting the shock value, I think that the whole reason why CNN did this is because they thought, well, our ratings are low. We're trying to persuade people that we're turning over a new leaf. So what we'll do is we'll have Trump on because he's always been good for our ratings, and we'll just let them loose, and people will see how bad he is, and we'll be able to pretend like we were being fair, and it'll all go back. It'll all go back because he'll be back in the news, and we can use him for ratings again. And instead, they have people doing the hashtag "I'm done with CNN," and a bunch of people on the right said, "Oh yeah, I've been done with CNN for a year. By the way, boycotting Fox News also. I'm going with independent commentary from here on out." But leftists, I'm glad you figured out that CNN was bad news. We agree. We support you in this decision. And it's just so
Hey,
beautiful.
hey, seriously, support your local independent content creators. We're out here giving you guys the same exact news, and we're, in my opinion, doing it better. But with all that being said, you know, I don't know if they thought this was going to be a win-win situation or not, because I can see it from an angle at CNN, like you said. All right, so we get him on, and our ratings go through the roof because people can't resist coming to say
Mhm,
"Orange Man bad," grr, and making their angry faces and
mhm.
having their reaction videos, and oh God, we need to check on the TikTok people. When Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away,
Oh
that
yes. Oh,
so we got to check on the TikTok people.
speaking of people, we've got Rambler in our live chat. He says, "All of this
Oh,
chaos is
hello.
so wonderful to someone like me." Oh, we are enjoying it with you,
Revel.
sir. This is
Yes,
a
Revel.
fantastic day. I don't know how insightful we're being today, but boy, howdy, it is so nice to talk about something uplifting for a change.
Right, but so they're either going to just flock there to boost their numbers, or to round off the point, like you said, would he step into a trap where he would alienate himself from Republican voters by going back on things like January 6th and the election results? Because I do want to go into that next.
Yeah.
His epic response to the election question, head on,
Mhm.
dead on, Mr. President, admit you lost that election. Absolutely, under no circumstances will I admit that that election was lost or was legit. And again, we do not believe in the ghost of Hugo Chavez, but what I do believe in is homegrown fraud directly from the dissenters in this country who want to see it burn, and also the legislators who lie to the people on an everyday basis. That's my piece on that situation. But I thought the response was epic.
I thought he did a really good job with that as well. And also, while he was giving it, I just kept going through in my head. I'm like, the fact that that was even turned into a thing was 100% avoidable.
Yes.
After we started hearing this and people had questions, all anyone in an official position had to do is say, "You have questions. We have heard these questions. We are giving you what we here's the information we have for you today, and here's the investigation that's being appointed, and we're going to straighten this out to everyone's satisfaction." If they actually considered themselves to be in submission to the people, that's what they would have done, and that would have been the proper thing to done. And then I also got that reminded me about the extreme stupidity of the Supreme Court. The you know the fact of the matter is, I just think John Roberts didn't want to have to deal with the heat, which is so pathetic and weak. I mean, we need some proper testosterone in men. I'm so sick of this beta bullshit. But
Hey,
and I don't buy any of the excuses, because for the Supreme Court, if states have issues with each other, you are the original jurisdiction. And I don't care if you thought the case had merit or not. If you have 40 plus states coming at you like, we got issues, you sit
we
down and
have
you listen.
issues.
Yeah, you sit down and you talk about it. It was so much more destabilizing, because that was a lot of people. So many people thought, well, we still have the court system. As long as we have the courts, things are a lot more manageable. And because there was this massive dereliction of duty that was completely unforced, now people are in a tumble about that. So well done, John Roberts. Well done.
Yeah, and I love the framing that you put that in, because you hit the nail directly on the head. It was something that could have been not only a wonderful civic lesson for all of us to learn in this day and age, but it is also your original intention and duty to handle these situations. And when the people themselves watch the courts fail to take up their own burden, then that expectation on the next court case also falls through. Now, is this a good time to interject a little bit of fact checking as far as the court systems are concerned? Because I do
Oh
want
yeah,
to
go right
detract for
ahead.
just one moment. You know, he's leaning into this "I abolished Roe" kind of mentality, and I just want to say, for CNN's sake, this is the fact check you guys all missed. He didn't abolish Roe. He put the power of the states' rights to either allow or disallow abortion back to a premise where it is closest representative of the people's will, and that is giving the power back to the states. So, it's not a big fact check, but yeah, I will give them that. You missed one, CNN. You missed a fact check.
Well, they always miss the ones that would actually be legitimate. But
Yeah.
you know how their slogan for years has been fair and balanced. Oh no, that was Fox News used to be. Okay, I got that wrong. Bad Brigantia
Oh,
fact checked on me. But I mean, here
yeah.
we are, two independents saying, okay, this is how it actually is, and we'll give them this, and that's fair. If you're wanting to see fairness, I mean, I think a lot of people are starting to come around to the idea that we're not going to find it in these institutions anymore, and that the only thing we really have is each other's characters, which is I think that's really good news for us and for other commentators in the independent sphere, because a lot of people are talking about the importance of character and what American virtues actually are. So I'm counting that as another mark in the win column for me. And Rambler saying, dig, baby, dig. Yeah, we could talk about the whole drilling of oil and energy independence and how that would solve a lot of things. Want to get into that?
Oh yeah, and I love that. Was another one. What would be the first thing that you would do to alleviate the high gas prices? And again, allow the United States to start participating in their
Mhm.
own energy. Like, it's stupid for us to hoard resources that we eventually never want to use. Does anybody else ever like look at that and go, so you're not allowed to use the resources that would help the people in your country immediately because you eventually never want to use those resources. So you're going to hoard it. But
Mm. I'm
I
feeling
just like,
dizzy over here. Feeling dizzy.
right, like, oh my goodness. I never understood that, because it just seems like a waste to me. But here we are, millions of people out of a job, millions of people who don't want to go to work, and millions of people expecting money to literally fly into their pockets. Yet there's no production. There's no making of the money. How do we make the money?
Oh, I swear. I mean, we're going to have to start ignoring stupid people. I mean, I mean,
That's what I do every day.
I know, but we're going to have to make much more of a commitment to that as a civilization, because how many years has it been? And I remember this started mid-90s, and we were suddenly listening to people who were saying very silly things and had very bad arguments, and we were hearing them out. And like, well, I don't think you've got it quite right, but I certainly empathize with your feelings. We've got to throw that entire process out of the window. When people are saying ridiculous things, it's like, yeah, that bears absolutely no resemblance to reality whatsoever. And therefore, I am not going to entertain it, and I'm not going to listen to you for a period of time. I've never understood how people got confused about how the right to speak was somehow the right to be heard. People have no obligation to listen to you. You have to earn that every time you open your mouth. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it goes back to the basic logic train. You're chugging along, you think there's a track there, the next thing you know, meow, you're off the course. It's like, well, you got to finish building that track before you start the train. But a lot of people, they miss that step, and their trains go careening off into left field. And right now, it's joyful to watch these people flounder in their own ideas again, to have somebody on the national spotlight challenge the rhetoric, because nobody is allowed to. Trump is the voice of the people, and I don't want to necessarily be represented by everything that the man says and does.
Mhm.
But with that being said, it is a lot of fun to watch the bully take a hit. It
And
is.
that it is. And that actually brings up something that Rambler and I were discussing earlier today on the server, because we were talking about 24 possible candidates and this and that and the other. And one of the things he said is that he thought that Trump needed this. And, and I agree. I think he
Mhm.
does not. I think he not only needed last night, I think he does need to win in 24. And, one of the things I said to him at the time is, but also, the issues in our country are bigger than just the issues with one man. And since then, I've been thinking about that conversation all morning long. And then I thought it gave me and you and so many other people such joy to see him actually land a punch on these people.
Mhm.
And to see all of the fallout that he does just by speaking without any
Yeah.
official political power at this point in time. And I thought, maybe we also need that as well, psychologically, for morale. Maybe we just need to think that maybe there's something we can do to strike back. And no one exemplifies the capacity to strike back quite like Donald Trump.
It is a beautiful, beautiful thing, and you're right. It's reinvigorating the conversation,
Mhm.
and a lot of us, you know, when you get beat down on a daily basis. I mean, just think about it. How many people lost their jobs through the COVID pandemic,
Mhm.
whether they wanted to open a brand new business and couldn't, or had a business
Mhm.
they started that had to shut down, or had been
Yeah.
in business for years and weren't allowed to serve their community. You had people who were in really good jobs who then got reverted back to kind of your entry level positions.
Mhm.
You have all of these losses compounding over the last only 3 years. Like, let's be realistic here. It's been 3 years, and it feels like an eternity. There's 5% inflation over the past 3 years. Like,
Oh, at least.
we are watching a rapid change, and that's what we talk about all the time. The only thing that people can actually relate to on any semblance or sense of connotation of the word, because if it's not affecting them directly, it's an abstract idea.
Mhm.
They can't grasp it. It's not tangible. It's like, yeah, that happens, but that's an anecdote. Or, that's just somebody else's experience. And it's like,
Let
yeah,
me
but
get
it
out my
happened.
bows and arrows. I've got some recent events of Timcast IRL I need to give a little shot to.
You
Oh,
getting the Lance
oh,
vibes?
oh, I swear. I'm too old. I'm too old for listening to those kinds of idiots. I'm like, oh my gods, morons. hard
right,
to listen to.
but that's, that's what we're dealing with, and people checked out. I mean, we felt the shift. You and I have talked
Oh
about
yeah.
this for many months, of people who were just like, that's it. That's it. So I'm so excited to see who immigrates back to political commentation.
I hope we do have a bit of a renaissance, because that'll be very helpful leading up to 24 and beyond, and just kind of revitalizing the idea of America could actually dig itself out of this hole, not without
Mhm.
experiencing the natural and logical consequences, because we've said many times things build up, you get the results. The harvest always comes. There's nothing you can do about that, but you can always make better decisions going forward. And I think people need that renewal of hope and that renewal of confidence, and he really exudes that kind of confidence, and especially once in his conversation with what's her face on CNN, when she started blah blah blah, and he just kind of pointed it to her at one point and said, that's what they do. That's what she does. I'm breaking the fourth wall. And I'm like, we need that. We need someone breaking the fourth wall saying, yeah, this is insane. I'm not going to act like this is normal, like this is business as usual. This is a weird ass thing to be doing. Oh, let's see. Rambler says, lived experience, good, unless it's not my own. Then it doesn't matter because it's not convenient.
That's
If
right.
that doesn't sum up the attitude right then and there, I don't know what does.
That's a great point, because everything is, oh, well, it happened to me because I'm, this skin color. It happened to me because I'm this sexual preference. It happened to me. It happened to me. And then you're like, yeah, well, I've been through, X amount of years of my life and I've never seen it happen, not once. Well, you don't know what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I
I
know.
don't know. I don't know.
People. But I mean, we
Good
need
point.
something. But we need something to get us out of just out of all of that. I mean, we need wins, and we need to see people not being punished for their virtues, or punished for caring, or punished because they're trying to do the right thing. Like that guy who those three people really in the New York subway who acted absolutely appropriately, you know, restraining that lunatic, and now someone wants to bring them up on charges because they're horrible people like that. And that happens to a lot of men. They stand up, they try to do something right, and then they get punished for it. We need to see that people are not getting as punished for their virtues anymore, which makes me pretty encouraged about what he said outright about how there's a lot of the January 6th people I am absolutely willing to pardon, and that I'm even willing to look at the case of the Proud Boys. He's like, because you can't get a fair trial in DC.
Yeah, yeah, that's right into his other slam dunk about Mar-a-Lago, and
Hmm.
not wanting to let the unjust due process go, or to let the system slip through his fingers, which you would think realistically should shift the people who are in that center left column, people who aren't so far gone that they believe in the crazy hipsy dipsy doodah rhetoric, but the ones who are close enough to the center, who do believe in things like justice reform as a
Hmm.
hard turning point. Like, they don't want to go forward with Trump because they don't believe that he's on the right side of the criminal justice reform. But if you look at, like you said, what he said about the January 6th defendants, what happened to him in the Mar-a-Lago raid, how he handled himself in the Carroll situation, what Fanny, whatever her name, is doing here in Georgia, and then with Bragg and all the craziness that's coming out of New York. When you look at that as an average citizen, first off, I thought money was supposed to protect us from those types of
Hmm.
overreaches of the law. So there goes your rhetoric number one. Poof, that doesn't exist anymore. But bring it back down to an average citizen level. How am I, as an average citizen, supposed to believe now that that can never happen to me?
Yeah.
It happened. Back to that anecdotal evidence. I mean, it's
Well, and
anecdotal, but it's there.
that same old thing. If it can happen to Donald Trump, how on earth could I possibly protect myself? I mean, the last thing in the world I would want to have is any kind of legal issue and then face a Democratic judge. Well,
Oh,
I don't want to deal with that. If I found out that I had to face a trial for, whatever, someone didn't
imagine
like
if
the
they
color
got
of
your
my
voting
hair.
history.
Oh, I
Imagine if they
know.
got your voting history. Oh my goodness. Or heaven forbid they found out that, I don't know, you were a stay-at-home mom and considered yourself to be a trad wife. Like, is that something to worry about nowadays? Seriously.
Well, think about that. I'm a rabid constitutionalist. I hate Marxists. I consider them seditionists and traitors in the legal, punishable sense of the term. I am a housewife. I am a pagan priestess who's engaging in public commentary. Do I need any more strikes, or shall we just take me out back and string me up right now?
Oh, the pyre is burning. I can feel it from here. That's about where the hell I'm at, because it's funny. We talked about this very early on in the creation of my channel in general. I picked the title, the moniker of Wiccan conservative in an effort to try to throw off the algorithms, and they snuffed me out, which is fine because we're not hiding. But with that being said, should I be? Should I
Yeah.
have to worry about it now that we've gone public?
And as always, when the conversation takes this dark turn, I just want to put out to any of our haters, if we die, that doesn't mean you're out of trouble or beyond the reach of retribution. Because on the other side, we don't answer to the laws of men, and the gods have very flexible ideas about revenge. So I'm just
Be
saying,
warned.
don't
Be
do away with
warned.
us for no good reason. I don't think that'll work out for you. Just putting that out there right now.
True, true.
Let's see. The other, let's see. There's a couple of other things. I mean, so much of it was so good. I've been trying to keep track of it mentally because it was. I enjoyed it too much. I wasn't taking notes. I probably should have, but I can't. It's too much fun. But what did you think about what he had to say about Ukraine? About how he said that there are things that can be done to bring an end to it, like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You could cut off the pipeline from Ukraine to Hunter Biden's pocket with
Hmm.
10% going to the big man. Boom, done. No more war with Ukraine. Um, Honestly, I think it's as simple as putting Donald Trump back into the White House. I think that immediately he would put Zelensky and Putin in the same room. They'd sit down, they'd have a conversation. Ukraine would probably decrease in size. I'm not going to lie to you, because
Yeah,
I honestly do believe in my heart of hearts that there are people in the region that want to be Russian. And I do believe that they overwhelm the amount of people who want to be Ukrainian. But there's ways to make that work
yeah.
for that region. And it may involve conceding some of that territory to Russia. But I don't think that Zelensky really gives a fuck. I don't think that Putin's really going to have an issue with it. I think the perpetuation of this war, or I'm sorry, was it even declared? Because I'm pretty sure Congress never voted on it, but to hell with the actual rules of
No,
engagement.
no. Congress votes to send money. This is really what infuriated me about the war to begin with. It would have been one thing if they had said, we're sending them equipment and bullets and whatever else. Okay, that makes sense. They're fighting a war. The powers that be decided they wanted to support the Ukrainians. Okay, that makes sense. But like, no, we're just going to send money and we're not going to pay any attention to where it's going. I'm like, oh, really? Is that what we're doing?
It's not like we didn't already notice that the federal government over there was paying the energy company that our president's son used to work for, and we didn't find his laptop with emails in it that
Yeah,
said that he was taking that money and giving 10% to Joe Biden. I mean, oops, I'm sorry, the big man, we don't know who that is. But I digress. I think it is that simple. And his again, knockout answer response, pulling back in the fake impeachment, in
mhm,
bringing up that Zelensky even told our congressional establishment that there was no coercion in the phone call and that he actually liked President Trump. So I think that put them in a rock and a hard place. And you said it before we started recording that that is one of their favorites, and I had not
Oh
considered
yeah.
that before.
Saint Zelensky. I mean, and you saw how quickly what's her face, shifted the conversation away, as she did every freaking time it was going in a direction that was not favorable to her. Like, we're gonna have to move on. I'm gonna have to stop you, and I'm going to have to ramble about something that people don't believe. But I work for CNN, so this is the only thing we're allowed to say. I mean, over and over and over. It was so painful. I tell you, one of these days, I don't know if it's going to be Tim Pool or Steven Crowder, but one of these days we're going to watch one of those men have an aneurysm watching exchanges like that. We might need to start a betting pool. Who's going to pop off first by having a stroke? Because it's going to happen to one of them.
Tim, if they keep harassing him through, these false media attacks, I can really, after getting swatted, that boy was okay. After dealing with Kanye West and the fallout of that, that boy was okay. He get called every name in the goddamn book, that boy is okay. But now being called like a literal terrorist and having the influence in mass shooter manifestos and things like that, like,
He's the
you
most
are going to give
anti-person
him a
ever on that.
you're going to give that man a complex. Like, kudos, shout out to Tim Pool. I know he'll never hear this, but that's brutal. That's brutal.
Oh yeah. Well, and he's the constant misrepresentation because he doesn't exactly appreciate being called right wing, because he is not in any rational sense of the term right wing at all.
He's just rational. He's just rational.
Oh, so I noticed that in the town hall, the issue of the documents raised its ugly head once again. I tell you, the people are not getting through that their heads that the president can decide what to take and what to have, and that's kind of it. I mean,
If
just
they
it was.
were important documents, somebody in the comment section right now, tell me what they were. Tell me what they were. Tell me what big secrets did they reveal? Who put them into their national plan of action against the United States of America, and whose life was lost because these documents were declassified?
Yeah. Well, and here's another a difficulty with that. Even if they wanted to pursue that particular line of reasoning, it's because presidents make decisions all the time that endanger someone. No matter what choice they make, it is going to endanger or disadvantage someone. That is just the nature of the job. Whether you're a president or a prime minister or a king, that's what you're dealing with. So, I mean. I don't know. But of course, they're not really dealing with the reason. The reason is all for us. Going through the logical steps, that makes us feel better. And
That's right.
and Rambler was saying that Tim is in a very unique position to go toe to toe with the legacy on the public stage. Yeah, he absolutely is. I consider him a very important national resource, and all steps must be taken to protect him. I really feel
Preserve.
that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know what? This goes for anybody that's realistically out there being truthful about the
Mhm.
situation. Now, I'm not going to step on anybody like Slate or Vice or BuzzFeed or The Guardian per se. You're more than entitled to run your opinion pieces. I think that they should be clearly labeled opinion
Yes.
pieces, especially if we're writing satirical information, because yeah, people really suck at writing. You're not doing grammar right. You don't know
Oh,
English very well.
it's
You need to get
horrible.
yourself a thesaurus and a dictionary. But with all that being said, I'm not eliminating speech, but I would really like to see people who are just telling the truth be
Hmm.
promoted again. And if you're telling somebody what to think, you're allowed to. People will flock to you, and they can come divulge themselves in your opinion, like all of our lovely fans do.
Hmm.
But just tell the truth, and I think that you'll find a much happier society, because it'll be an actual reflection of what's going on, as opposed to, I was told all these things and now the world's not what it seems. Oh, it's scary.
It must be terrifying to be a leftist right now, one of the really
God,
committed
yeah.
zombies, because they've had some losses lately. The whole boycott with Bud Light, that didn't go the way they were expecting. Elon
Mm.
Musk with Twitter, there's not a day that goes by when they're not in mourning over that.
And
And
Tucker now
yeah,
on
Tucker,
Twitter.
now he's on Twitter. They don't like that either.
That's it. They lost their mind. The verification is gone. Tucker will be there. Elon's still in charge. Oh,
Yeah,
what are they going to do?
and now Trump is speaking on CNN, which that is enough, as I said at the beginning, for them to label CNN and it's now a fascist organization. I'm like, that's going
Are
to
we
come quite
sure
a
it's
shock.
not 2017? Are we being
I
punked
know.
right now?
It does feel like we are repeating. Now, the only thing that's getting me down is that a lot of this cool stuff is happening during Mercury retrograde, so I don't know how long the effects will last. But on the other hand, these retrogrades, that's when unfinished business gets brought up again. So I'm like, okay, I'm paying attention to the issues that are coming back up for us, because maybe this is starting to set things right, because things are never really settled until they're settled right. And maybe that we're starting to move along on that path, which is, really exciting.
Yeah.
With all of this, I feel so uncharacteristically optimistic. I'm a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
concerned that our viewers will question whether or not we're us or whether or not we're some sort of
Body
AI.
snatchers.
We've been
Is this
possessed
a
in some
deep
way.
fake? Is this a deep
It could
fake?
be. It could be. Oh, man.
No, but it's a testament to exactly how fast the atmosphere can be changed when the actual remedies and solutions are kind of being brought to the attention. I mean, we've listened to enough bad ideas and we've implemented enough crazy feelings oriented policies, let's put them
Mhm.
that way, that it's time. I think you've said this once before, for the grown-ups to take over the room and say playtime is over. This is how we're going to proceed forward. And it's not that it's not going to be fun, but not everybody's going to be happy with the direction we're going to be moving. So, with that being said, buckle up, let's go.
Yeah, some people out there, they need to be prepared to get a little bit of corner time and be thankful that no one is allowing me to go around beating them with a switch, because I would
Yes.
dearly love to after everything they put everyone else through.
Take your pick.
Right? I think that we are starting to be on a path for healing. I don't know if that healing will encompass all of us, because, like you were talking about how in order to resolve things with Russia, Ukraine might lose some territory. It may be, and in the final analysis, in order to reset the constitutional republic, that we might end up, not necessarily every state coming along for the ride, or at least not every single area. But if we can get to a place where enough of us are healthy and enough of us are actually are able to conduct ourselves in a reasonable fashion, because we've said this all the time, all of the various divisions in our society, the Constitution is an excellent system that makes room for those divisions without anyone being forced to bear false witness about their own convictions and to more or less live as they see fit, without any particular problems, if you just refrain from trying to tyrannize over your neighbor. All of it is about this huge lesson in self-control. And if
Yeah.
and if more of us are getting to that point of, I just want to manage my own affairs, I might be meddling with my spouse. We might be having a power struggle there, but I'm not having a power struggle with Jill down the street, or George across the state. If we could get there, then I think there's reason to be optimistic about the future again.
Yeah, I think that we can get there. I think that again, this is actually a good thing that we didn't get back to back years of Trump, in my humble opinion. I've been thinking about this for a while, and my rationale on that is, if we had back to back years, it would have been 8 years of civic lessons, or maybe just the first 4 years of civic lessons. 8 years would have been comfort, and then we would have been further down the bunny trail than what we are right now. We've had a hard stop in prosperity, and it's been one of those things that it's like, all right, you come to the end of the road and you're dying of thirst. You haven't had water for 5 months. You got to drink out of your canteen and it's empty. So now you're in a survival mode situation. What do you do next? And this election cycle that's coming up is very precipice of that, in my opinion.
Mhm.
We're right on the edge, and we're about to really find out who's paying attention, what they're paying attention to, and what direction they want to take this country, and ultimately the future of not only their lives but of their children's lives. What legacy are you leaving behind for the kids? And I know that's where a lot of well-meaning uh, religious conservatives are coming from.
Mhm.
But you guys are also learning another hard lesson as to when to stop your own pursuit of happiness when you become infringed upon others. So
Mhm.
lots of lessons, and I think it's a
Oh
good
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I think we needed it. I absolutely think that we
Hmm.
needed this reckoning as a people. And one thing that I think that Trump really has going for him in his messaging, it's because you could all boil it down to, are you tired of suffering? We don't actually have to suffer anymore.
Yeah.
Because the opposition, suffering is the only thing they offer. It's always, things are going to be bad. Things have always been bad. Here's all the grievances. Here's all the sins you have to atone for. And I mean, we're kind of a hedonistic society by our nature. So every so often our consciences get the better of it, and and we become a little bit more receptive to, whatever version of fire and brimstone is being preached at us. But we get bored of it really, really quick. And
Yeah.
so when we have someone saying, we don't actually have to do any of that sucky stuff, we could actually start making things better. We could smile again. We could have fun again. We could reassert our confidence again. That's going to be a lot more attractive, even to the most unplugged of normies. Because normies, the one thing I can count on them is that they want to minimize their suffering. And if
Yeah.
we can persuade them in their mental calculations that there's less suffering with Trump, we can win.
I agree. I agree. And you're right. Not only is it just constant doom and gloom, but you are told you're not good enough. You're told you'll
Mhm,
never be good enough. You're told you have to put yourself down to be better than somebody else. We dubbed this the victim Olympics. Are
mhm.
you tired yet? I mean, that has got
Not
to
just
be
tired, but bored.
exhausting.
But
Yes.
bored. I mean, well,
It's
I mean,
funny.
and you can see even our cousins in the UK are getting a little tired with that rhetoric. During the coronation, there was this one actress, happens to be black, and she was all concerned and irritated that the balcony, when the royal family came out, the working royals, kind of the public diplomatic face of the nation, it's like it was terribly white. And I'm like, bitch, they're English. What the hell else are they gonna be? And why is that a problem for the king of England and the United Kingdom to be white along with his family members? Why is that an issue? They could have had, a little spot of color if Megan hadn't been such a complete bitch who wanted to run the show. You had an opportunity for that. She left of her own accord. How is this anybody's fault? And it just amazes me because she got so much pushback. She actually had to apologize because so many
Wow.
people in Britain of every shade of the rainbow said, that's not right. She's like, would you go to Ghana and say that their royal family was terribly black? No, you would never say such a thing. I mean, it's
I'm
actually very
glad to
tragic.
hear. I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear. I heard her offhand comment, and it just it like you said, it trips me out that we have that we have to come back to that awful talking
Mhm.
point constantly over and over again. When you thought it was a done deal, you thought all this was over and done with, but again, here we are. We're talking about it. We're making light of
Mhm.
it, and we're defending ourselves yet again. Um, and at the same time, while we're doing all this, there are other more important things that are going on.
Oh
And
yeah.
you ask them, is it more important to help your neighbors establish a community in which you are proud to say that hey, everybody supports and sustains each other, Or do you want to bicker about how much sun I got today or whether or not I look Hispanic?
Oh, I love the way you reset the priorities like that because you're absolutely right. I mean, what I find encouraging about people pushing back at that nonsense is that the fact that they're actually pushing back, because that is definitely step one. And step two is to where their voices get so marginalized and tiny that we don't have to listen to that because we're just dealing with each other as individuals as we properly should. And speaking about forming communities and kind of, reclaiming, the good things about national identity, I am going to make a shameless plug for the project that I started back on the server. Um,
Woo!
Yay! Um, I have a little project. It has its own subtitle. It's called the American Paganism and Witchcraft Project. And this came about through several reasons. Because, for one, our whole country's going through an identity crisis, and we might as well participate too. And for another, is that from some of our pagan cousins overseas, I'm detecting some attitude. I'm detecting a certain narrow mindedness of whenever we have an idea of our own or when we ask questions that they think are silly. And I'm like, you know what? We have come to a point where we've done a lot of research about what we know historically and what we know about certain places. But what we have failed in as missing ingredient is really digging into the soil where we're actually at and acknowledging the culture in which we live. And, also coming to that recognition that the gods we're dealing with today are older than the gods our ancestors were dealing with. And, they have been moving with us through time. So I start a little thing. I'm asking questions. I have a whole channel with surveys that I would love to get more answers on. I'm not really commenting on them unless someone brings up American gods or other works of fiction, because that's not what we're doing. We are not doing fictional paganism here. I want to find out where people are at. Do you think that we could start sowing the seeds for something that will be uniquely American, and how regionalized will that be? And I mean all this other stuff. And I have let me bring it up. We've got channels about deities that capture some part of the American spirit, mythical beings like the Fae that are known to exist on American soil, American cryptids, our own native animal species and plant species, what minerals and metals that we have, American archetypes. I want to talk about that, as well as prominent ancestors, our special celebrations, sacred sites, not just ones that were established by the indigenous tribes, but ones that we are establishing in the here and now that are becoming special for us. I have a section on philosophy. I have a thing on actual American paganism of, okay, what things are important to us? We have all of this knowledge. We've asked what everyone else in the world thinks. What do we think? And right underneath that, I have the final category of American craft, because at a certain point, it's not about what our ancestors did. It's not about what our present day cousins think and are doing. What do we think? Where we are, how we are, when we are. So I am seeking people to fill me in on what they think, because this isn't a conversation where I can simply define terms. We need to make this a group project. So come one, come all. Let's really dig into this, because we have so much territory. And why shouldn't we have our own unique pagan identity? Why? I can't think of a good reason.
Well, it is a huge endeavor, a very special project, something that will be an ongoing task, I'm
Mhm.
sure. And the more information that you get and the more information that you acquire, I think is going to give us a more accurate picture of
Mhm.
what people actually look at as being their guide to their spirituality. And I think it's a step in the right direction to become actually legitimized in our thought process, because the whole reason that we get ignored in the big classification of religiously protected groups is because we can't come to some semblance of a idea of what it is that we believe in. It can't be espoused. A lot of us just claim it to be a feeling. So if you can get your thoughts organized and, of course, take your time, think about it real hard, sign up for Blackbird's Brew, and then answer the questions, we would love to hear you. We would love to have the feedback. I think it's so much fun to have these conversations on a deeper level.
Mhm.
You don't have to be super experienced to have an
Oh no, not at
opinion.
all.
So
And
Don't
also
let anything count you out.
yeah, and also bring up questions that you would like to see other people answer as well, because I can't think of everything. I mean, I know I've just unleashed this big scale, grandiose, civilization altering project, but I mean, even for a Leo, there comes a point in which modesty forbids. I can't think of everything. I'm not going to consider every single factor. I'm not living inside of other people's heads, so I don't know what has been really significant for them on their journeys, or things where they didn't feel like they had the spiritual support that they would have benefited from. So the more personality types we have in there, the more different kinds of paths, the more different perspectives we have in there, the better. Because after the Wicca teaching course finishes up, because 202 finishes in August, and then 303, which will be the final edition, will finish in the following August. Come September 24, I'm gonna want to be talking about this stuff on a more serious level. So we've got a little less than a year and a half to really start putting some things inside my internal cauldron. So
Form the
please.
thesis.
Yes, please be part of this, because like you said, this isn't a one woman project. And I think this is something to where when I do reach the end of my lifespan, I want to see other people pick up this torch, because this is way bigger than any one person or any one idea. So please, I'm literally begging. You don't know how demeaning that is for a Leo, but I am literally begging for people to come and help and make their voices heard on that.
Awesome. And of course, there are thousands of other things to look at. We are sharing every single day, live chat every hour, and it's like a big AOL chat room. So anybody that's missing that, let's pop in, see what's going on in the magical world, because I know that I'm super plugged into politics and home life and all that jazz. So a lot of people don't have a good resource to get that magical fix, and Blackbird's Brew, that's the place to do it.
Yeah, and channels are expanding every single day. I did my best to rest while I was on vacation, gang. I did my best, but I kind of failed. But I did a lot of good brainstorming, so hopefully everyone will benefit from that. But Miss Georgia, is there anything else you would like to plug before we go?
No, you guys know where to find me. If I am on social media, it will either be to post links on True Social or Twitter. If you find me on Facebook, that's a dead site, so don't even worry about following me there. YouTube and Rumble are up and active, and I'm trying really hard to keep both of those sites going. I need to come up with some Rumble exclusive content, but of course, you guys know the news cycle will not disappoint me. Something will come along and there will be a Rumble exclusive in the future. Look tomorrow on both Rumble and YouTube what is happening in Texas. And that'll be a real quick recap on all of the shit that's happening in Texas, if you couldn't tell by the title.
Oh, looking forward to it. Oh, absolutely, gang. Come join up on her channel. Follow her on both YouTube and Rumble. Definitely make sure you're subscribed to her and me on Rumble, because you never know when YouTube is going to give us the boot.
Or where we're going to be, because I could be here, she could be there. You just never know.
You don't know. Alrighty. Don't remember to, don't forget to, okay, I think I need protein and lunch. But don't forget to sign up for the Gilded group. I think I did forget to put it in the description box here, but it's all over the channel. There's all sorts of links there. Yeah, I'm sure you will find one. And if nothing else, just send me a comment in the comment section. I will give you a link there. And join us. Become one with the brew. But that'll do it, gang. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.